Nescafe, you can't go wrong. All right, welcome back. I'm IELTS teacher Dan, CEO, founder of Gang Foundation, making the world a better place. The topic today is about how students and teachers and just low income people will improve their finances and their lives in general simply by using marks. Simply by using marks at their school, all students will level up, which will in turn level up their parents and families, which will in turn level up their entire communities and probably level up entire countries. It really is going to be a massive, earth-shattering generation of wealth for many people all around the world. Many people are going to earn money. They've never earned money before. And I personally am very excited to see this, what the world looks like when people are earning and paid equitably. So what happens when the world is fair? It's an interesting thought. So this talk is about how low income and developing places can improve their situations simply by using marks, all right? And they don't cost any money. Remember that. They're not gonna cost the students money. So here's how it works. The Gang Foundation is currently seeking out some institutional partners, some schools, some partner schools to implement the Marks program. Just the first couple test cases so that everyone can see how amazing and how great using marks is. So let's just say, for example, we go to a disadvantaged school and we offer them a package of marks for their students. Let's say there's 100 students at this school. It's a small school. And for 1 year, they need, let's just say they take 100,000 marks. They study for 200 days. So we're looking at, what is that, 5,000 marks a day. 5,000 times 200 is 100,000, right? So we're looking at about 200 marks a day. Now, let's say a mark is $1. Eventually, marks will be worth $1. I foresee that they will be worth actually probably $10 million a mark. That's in the great grand scheme. One mark is worth 10 million, but we will split them up. Marks are great like that. All cryptocurrency, blockchain technology is good because no matter how much one mark or coin is worth, we can just cut it into smaller pieces so that it is manageable, so that it is a normal price. It's easy, it costs nothing. So let's say each mark is $1 and we're just working with dollars here. So all of your students are earning $10 a day, 5,000 a day, or is it 500 a day? I think it's 500 a day. 500 times 200, 202 get me to 1,000. 20 will get me to 10,000. 200, yeah, so it's 500 marks a day. So there's 100 students and 500 marks a day. Each student earns $5 a day. There we go. It took a while to get the math. Again, I'm not a math guy. I'm an English teacher. So every student at this school now earns $5 a day. It costs them nothing. They have been going to school their whole lives. Nothing changed except now, because the Gang Foundation has given these 100,000 marks to the school, every student at that school will earn 5 marks a day. It's great. What can they do with 5 marks? It doesn't seem like a lot of money, but you got to think you got 100 students. That's $500 a day, just floating around in the school. $500 a day. All right, so we've given the school $100,000 worth of cryptocurrency that now is in the hands of students. So normally it costs, the tuition for the next grade is however much money. Parents no longer have to pay that because their kids earn 5 marks a day. So they have 1,000 marks at the end of the year. They earn 5 a day, they study for 200 days, they'll have 1,000 marks. Now, if the tuition is not 1,000 marks, especially not at a disadvantaged or rural school, it's not 1,000. So the student will now be able to pay their tuition simply by studying from the last year. For the last year, they studied and they pay whatever the tuition is. I don't know. So where I am, tuition is like 2 million, maybe 5 million. Maybe it's $200 a year. So the students at this rural place have to pay 200 out of their 1,000 marks. You know, that's a little chunk. They're spending 1/5 of their marks to pay the tuition for their school. Again, their parents are not paying anything. No one in that community is paying money for their children to attend school anymore. All school essentially becomes free. Universal education. That's the baseline, just a baseline. There's no more. Tuition still exists. Yes, obviously it costs money to educate people, but that money no longer has to come from hardworking parents. So that's done. So all of the parents keep their money. The school still makes money. The states still make their money. The students still get the same education. Actually, you'll see soon how it's going to become so parents take that tuition off the table. All of the parents now have an extra $200 to whatever. So you still have students with 800 marks for the year. They've paid for their tuition. Maybe they need to pay another 50 for books or whatever. Let's just call it 100. They pay another 100 for books and supplies, book bags, pencils and pens, whatever all of that costs. Let's say it's 100. They still have 700 marks. Now, every school will make a kind of profit. Every teacher will kind of get a cut. How it works is every day the students study, they receive marks for their performance in their class. But that also adds a kind of accountability. All right, we really put accountability and responsibility on the students now. Before, you know, we separated those things from the students, but now they are fully accountable for their education because they are the ones who are learning. They get paid. This is their work. They get paid to learn. The performance of their learning determines how much more over the baseline that they get. Every student gets paid a baseline no matter their performance, but the higher performance gets higher rewards. That's natural. So now every student is accountable. What does that mean? Every class costs 1 mark. Every test costs 1 mark. So if your student gets a baseline of 2 marks a day, say they get a baseline of 2, but actually, what did I say? They were getting 5. Oh, every student gets 5 a day. 2 of those are gone because they have to go back to the school to pay for admission to every class. They have to pay for admission to every class, and they have to pay for the privilege of taking every test. So that's 2 marks gone. And it's not every day. It's just really 1 mark a day gone. So what are we saying? We're saying every student gets 5 marks a day, but we'll go with out of their total, out of their 1,000, they're going to lose another 200 so it's 200 for tuition, 100 for books, and then another 200 for attendance and testing. We'll call it attendance. To attend the class costs another 100. So that's 500 marks gone, spent. That still leaves 500 marks at the end of the year or more per student. So why do the students need to pay? Because the teachers who teach the students need to get paid. Like if you provide a service, you get paid by the people who receive that service, and you get paid from. Now, even if you don't directly get paid, you're not a private teacher, right? If you're a service provider at like a company, the company pays you, right? And even though your salary is negotiated at the beginning, if it's a fair company, they're going to pay you some fair amount equal to, you get an amount that you should get an amount that is equal to the effort and value you provide. I'm going to say that again. every service provider should get paid an amount that is equal to the effort and value of the service they provide. Now, because education thus far has been kind of like a charity, right? It's been like sponsored by the government and things like that. The funds were limited. The amount of money possible to pay the teacher service providers was always capped. It's always been capped. Now, private teachers and teachers who do actually get paid by the people they're providing service for tend to make a lot more money. You see this with professional teachers and coaches and that kind of thing. And so all of the teachers who teach adults make a lot of money because they what they're worth. Teachers who teach children and young students, they can charge the students what they're worth because the students didn't pay anything. And they were just someone else, hey, will you give me money to do something for these people? I'm not gonna do anything for you, but you give me money and I will do something for these other people. That kind of doesn't produce fair wages. It's just not possible. A teacher who's a service provider is for all of humanity having to ask for charity. Every teacher is asking for charity from someone else. Please pay me money to help these people who can't help themselves. It's charity work. No longer. So every student receives a service from a teacher, so they need to pay that teacher. Fortunately, now every student has marks, so that's the responsibility that, frankly, every person needs to learn to be accountable and to be responsible with money and to treat people fairly, right? I know for sure, right? If I was in school, I might be disrespectful to teachers or not paid attention in class because I had been in the game. There was no win or lose for me. What do I do my homework? What does it matter? It doesn't because what do I receive? Oh, I get a letter A on a paper. It's useless. It didn't matter for me. For 98%, the grades they got in school don't matter. Unless where the grades determined how far they would excel, these naturally excellent needed those grades, the letters on the top of their papers to determine how far they could excel. The average and below average, which is most people, those grades don't matter as much. They barely matter at all. A plumber, his grades to be a plumber, one's grades in school have zero bearing on their ability to do that job and take care of themselves in the future. So students have no responsibility to their teachers, to the people who are providing them a service, who are doing something for them. They owe them nothing, they give them nothing, and we can't expect them to. This system is run by beatings and shame. Parents who do actually have to pay beat and shame their children and pressure their children to take school seriously when it's completely opposite to human nature. You force the children to take something seriously that they can't even see the benefit of it. Only the parents see the benefit, and they have to force and cajole their children into putting in effort to this thing, that really, really, really intangible thing. But now it's tangible. Every student earns their marks. They have to pay a mark to the teacher every day. I know for me and for most other people, if every time I went to school, I had to come out of my pocket, I had to put something in the teacher's hand, I'd make sure I didn't waste my time at that place. That accountability, that new responsibility will increase the collective educational level of students around the world. Just baseline, just common sense. I'm not saying every student is money motivated. Not every student will realize the value of the marks they have, but for the ones that do, their productivity will shoot up. Their productivity will increase, whether that's 1% or 80%. It doesn't matter. It's a net positive. It's not going to be less. People can't care less about school now, especially if we introduce marks as money. There's no way they could care less. They're going to care more. And that is an inevitable end. Every student, some percentage of students above the ones that do now, will care much more about their studies. And because students self-fund their studies, if they care and put in effort, there is no limit to how high they can go. There is no barrier to their ambition. Before, there was a monetary barrier to every student's ambition. But now, because of Mark Coin, because of Gain Foundation, every student can maximize their potential. And I'm very excited about that. And I hope that you are as well, and that you share this video. Share some snippets, or just say, hey, have you heard about this thing where blah, 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 and we pay every student in the world? Start some conversations. Imagine if every student simply got paid to learn. So let's get back to the scenario. I've given the school the 100,000 marks. Every student makes 5 marks baseline per day, but they pay half of those back. They pay $250 back through whatever schools and fees. So they still got 500 marks, equivalent in this example to $500 at the end of the year. It may not sound like a lot, but next year the tuition is only $200. So in the first year of studying and using marks, they can pay for that current year and pay for the next year of studying. What does that mean? Well, next year, when they earn 1,000 marks, they keep all 1,000 of those marks. Imagine your first grader goes to school, very enthusiastic. They learn their alphabets, they sing songs, and they participate, and they don't bully or fight or disrupt the class. And their teachers, oh wow, little Mary is so well behaved and so enthusiastic and such a good little learner. I even gave her a bonus. Little Mary might earn a bonus for her performance at school, but regardless, little Mary has done everything she needs to go to second grade. All right, with her earnings from first grade, her parents paid nothing. Little Mary earned enough to go to the second grade and pay for the second grade. And then the same trend continues. Little Mary is enthusiastic and energetic and just a very good student and learning to be a very conscientious global citizen. Little Mary's on the right track. And so she earns $1,000 the next year, and then the next year another 1,000, and the next year another 1,000. For 12 years, and she earns 12,000 marks. She earns 12,000 marks. And you might say, what's 12,000? So little Mary is not going to be a doctor. Little Mary is going to work at the family business. She was an excellent student. She did well, but there's just no reason. She has no ambition to change the world. She simply wants to be happy and live a happy life. And with 12,000 marks, what can she do immediately out of high school? Buy a home, start a business, take a vacation around the world, see the world. Now, this is someone from a poor, very disadvantaged area who, without marks, would have no opportunity to do anything like this when she finished school. In fact, her parents would have had to beat her and force her to study an exorbitant amount of time every day, studying every day from 7 a.m. to 10 or 11 p.m. because that's the only chance that little Mary would have to secure her financial future. But now, little Mary, enthusiastic, a good student, not doing anything above and beyond. All right, she might get a bonus here or there, but she's just with the baseline pay, can pay her tuition for school every year. Every expense that goes along with school every year is paid. It's all paid. And at the end of her mandatory schooling, she has a profit of 12,000 marks, equivalent in this example to $12,000. Imagine. All right. She's heard about the world going through school. She heard about it. Now she gets to go see it. If Mary was someone else and wanted to go to college, she could pay her tuition right there. 12,000 is enough to go to some small, normal schools. But that's one example. Little Mary can buy a house, buy a car, whatever. Whatever her future holds, she has a nice little head start, regardless of where her parents started. Just with her own normal effort of going to school, she has changed the course of her family, she has set herself up to contribute to the lineage of her family, the name, the honor, the generational wealth. She has, no matter the past, right? In the past, my ancestors were slaves, and I say ancestors, but it's really not that long ago. Just a couple generations. It's just, I could say after the death of 5 people died. Between the deaths of 5 people, my family were slaves. That's the best way to put that. 5 people died. Before those 5 people died, my family were slaves. So say that, and I'm not trying to start any arguments, or this is just an example. So say that did have some sort of effect on my family's ability to generate wealth or accrue accolades or grow a community. Say it did, just for argument's sake. If it did, and I was a student who received marks throughout my entire mandatory education, and then I ended and I had enough to buy the first home, and my father don't own a home. So I just went to school. I went to school like everybody else, but imagine I came out of school and I could buy a house. Now imagine everyone in my class came out of school with the money to buy a house or buy a car or start a business or do whatever. Now, of course, a house doesn't cost $12,000 where I'm from, but it might cost $12,000 in this impoverished place. Even if it doesn't, 12,000 marks, what did I say? Yeah, 12,000 marks, $12,000. I'm just one child out of 4. Me and my 3 siblings all went to school for 12 years, and we all got $12,000. My mother worked, she worked consistently for my 12 years, my brother's 12 years. Now this isn't gonna be consecutive, but this is gonna be my 12 plus 2 for my brother, plus, 12. Plus 12 for my brother and sister. So we're at 14, 26. My mother worked consistently for 26 years. All right, she was a single mother. She never bought a house. She also had to pay for all of our tuitions, books, school supplies, daily food, transportation costs, extracurriculars, after school study. I know I didn't do well one year. I had to go to summer school because I was going to fail, right? I had to go to summer school. That cost straight cash. That summer school was straight money. All right, so I put a little dent in her pocket that year. So she's been working for 26 years, but she was spending, but imagine she didn't. She didn't have to spend any of her income on the education of her children. How much money will she have saved? So at the end of that 26 years, right, or at the end of the first, we'll just say the first 12, I've got 12, my brother has 10, my little brother and sister, they're just starting. But whatever, we're taking advance. Say they both got 12, so that's 12, 22, plus theirs, we'll just call it 5. So plus another 10, so 32. Plus, my mother had to spend $1,000 a year. We'll call it $1,000 a year. Let's just say it was $1,000 a year. She saved up $1,000 a year for 12 years. So that's another 12. So we're at 40, 45. So and I'm old, so pre-2000s, right? You had $45,000 or $50,000 a year money. That's more than enough to buy a small house. But even if it's not, that's more than enough for a down payment on a quite nice house. Right? That's a 10% down or 20% down on a house. So within one generation, my mother didn't own a house, but she had 4 children, and boom, now she's a change of trajectory. It's a change of trajectory. I know many impoverished places, especially, I teach around in Asia and some places in Africa, things like that. Some developing nations, owning a home is not the primary concern because families have homes, or they have owned homes for however many generations. They may not be the best condition, but they own them. But imagine land prices going up. It becomes quite profitable to sell your family land or sell your home to developers. Again, Nescafe. I actually need to look it up about Nescafe's educational efforts. They may be quite a good partner to distribute marks around the world. Check out Nescafe. Where I am, it was actually a bit expensive this week. I bought a box of Nescafe, 20-pack Nescafe, cost $66,000. Man, that's high. It should only be about 50 or 51, quite high. I don't know why the price was so high, 66,000. Anyway, Nescafe is the best coffee. So at a school in an impoverished area, that school no longer costs money, and every student at that school has 1,000 marks, roughly $1,000. The school has 100 students a year. They have 100 students in the first year, and then in the second year they have 200 students, and in the third year they have 300 students. So every year, every school around the world gets more students, so they use more marks, and every student thus has more marks to spend. All right, so 3 years after this program of marks is implemented, there's a poor school with 300 students. Every student has 1,000 marks. At the end of the year, 300 times 1,000, 300,000? I think it's like 3 million. 300 plus 1,000, 1, 2, 3. That's 30,000. 100 plus extra 3, 300,000. All right. So they have an extra 300,000 marks just floating around. Now, here's the thing. Marks are not made to be used out in the wider world. They are made for education, just to be spent in the education economy. What does that mean? Marks go to your teachers, they go to your schools, they go to buy books, buy book bags, buy school lunches. If you got a canteen at your school and you got to pay cash for your lunch every day, you use marks for that. Your parents are no longer paying for it. If there's a school trip, just use some marks. If there's going to be a school play, we need to build the stage and do the lights and costumes. What was once impossible for a disadvantaged poor school, right? These major extracurricular activities for a large number of students wasn't possible, right? There's schools that don't have music programs, but $300,000 floating around at the end of the year, you can buy a couple trumpets and you can start a music program. Oh, music is an elective, it's an extra class. You need a music teacher. Your school doesn't have the funding from the state to hire a music teacher. But remember, students are accountable. They pay to go to class. Oh, I'm tripping. I have been vastly underestimating how much money the students are gonna make. Because I've been saying students will make 5 marks a day, but that's in one class. Each teacher will have whatever, 1,000 marks or whatever. I forgot the original accounting. right? If every class that a student attends costs money, and every class that a student attends pays them. So it's not just 1,000 marks at the end. It's 1,000 marks per class that the student attended. If a student goes to 5 classes a day, they make 5,000 marks at the end of that year. Think about that. So I was talking about one student buying a house. I knew it because I have run these numbers. I've done this so many times in so many different possibilities. I knew one student studying for 12 years should be able to purchase a home at the end of their studies. They should be able to self-fund a business at the end of their studies. They have studied 5 classes a day. Each class pays 1,000 marks at the end of the year, or over the course of the year. But let's just say they have 1,000 at the end. That's 5,000 marks a year times 12 years. 60,000 marks at the end of their 12 years of school. Now, that sounds like a whole lot of college to me. That sounds like a long run, a university to me. That sounds like students who are going to go into trades and don't really have it. There's no use. They don't have use for 60. They're going to have 60,000 marks at the end of the year. They're done with their studies. What are they going to do with that money? Give it to mom and dad. Again, my family have 4 kids. There's a lot of developing nations where the citizens have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 children that need to be educated. And every child getting educated, getting paid 60,000 marks. That doesn't sound like any more world hunger to me. That sounds like we're gonna have to figure out how to keep everyone in the world from getting as big as I am. That sounds like privilege. Sounds like money-making privilege. So, good gracious. Anyway, the school wants to hire a band teacher, and all the students have 5,000 marks. Suddenly, sounds like that's what did I say? That's 300,000 marks. That's disgusting. 300,000 marks within your school system, within your specific school, let alone an entire school system. Imagine if 2 schools band together to combine that extra income to create a local community center or whatever. The possibilities of growth are insane with marks. So the school has 300,000 a year, and that yearly amount, it will grow because the student count just grows. Students are in a never-ending supply of customers. Every year there's going to be more students, then every year they have to enroll in school. So every student, 300,000, that's enough to hire any world-class musician or music teacher to teach your students. A rural school in an impoverished place with 300,000 marks, $300,000 a year can hire any qualified music teacher to run their music program. Now, before, the only students who got to play in a symphony orchestra were the most exceptional. And that bar is even higher for like students from very rural, poor places. You really had to be absolutely amazing if you didn't come from the right place in order to experience this very music class. I took music in school, and I consider it a major part of the foundation of who I am. Being able to appreciate classical music and the talent it takes, and the effort and the skill it takes to produce that kind of thing, and having been able to participate in the collective effort to produce beautiful music, it can change people's lie. It's a fundamental switch in a mind that can't be switched any other way. I personally believe that people who don't get to experience band are missing out. They're missing out. But they don't have to now because they got marks. With marks, every school can hire a world-class music teacher, and that will trickle down to the students and inspire some who may have thought their options, right? Everyone doesn't want to be a scientist, and everyone doesn't believe that trying to enter the rap game is a smart idea. But there are other options. You can become a musician, concert pianist, or oboe player. There are different sides to the music industries that they don't have exposure to, but if everyone in the world had exposure to do everything, it would maybe it would start to break down some of the preconceived notions we have about certain types of people from certain places, about their maximum potential, or even about their proclivities. If no poor people get to play the trombone in a band or in an orchestra, you will never think that those poor people want to do that, right? You say, and I'm not trying to call anything specifically out. Why are only these people playing the violin? The violin's expensive, and people who don't think as deeply about some things, which perfectly valid. Everyone shouldn't be consumed with intellectual, philosophical thoughts all the time. It's not reasonable. Some people you look at the surface, you see what it is, and you keep moving because you have to live your life. So on the surface, it's like, okay, these people play the violin and these people don't. That's all I need to know. And when you're talking, you might say, well, it's this kind of person. They never played a violin. Why would I even think about giving them violins, right? Whenever you're planning out the violin donation program, you can be like, well, so few of these people ever play the violin. Maybe the donation money or the donated violins would be better served with these other people because a lot of them play the violin. They must like it. They like it more. There's no other, what else is there? Right, so these kinds of preconceived notions, these stereotypes, these get broken down. These are money problems. And when everybody's got money, they're not problems anymore. When everybody has money, these are not problems anymore. Now, that's not to say wealthy people shouldn't be able to have a kind of exclusive circle, exclusive networks. Honestly, I believe class is another part of just human nature. Everyone wants to separate themselves. So just because everyone else has money now doesn't mean you having money makes you the same as everyone else. It might open up more options for the people who didn't have the options before, but it will also increase the gap maybe between the wealthy and the not wealthy. And why? Well, so let's go back to my example of the impoverished place, the disadvantaged place. So their students have $300,000 a year at this school, $300,000 a year in profits, every student, for all the students. A number of those students are going to cash out. Obviously, they're poor students. Now, even though their parents have been able to save a significant amount of money because the parents no longer have to pay for any costs associated with student learning. They're still poor, they're low-wage workers or whatever, and every little bit helps. So I'm a low-wage worker and I'm poor. We have a run-down house with no air conditioner, and I got 4 kids at school earning $60,000 marks, $60,000 over the course of their school lives. And they come home to my house every day, my little rundown house with no air conditioner. I take care of them, I feed them and clothe them and love on them and teach them. Ooh, fuck. Crazy ass, big ass bug. That is to say, people from the poor area now, all of their children have profit that they can contribute, all right, to the household management and to the prosperity of the household as a collective. Of course, filial children will give some portion of their profits to their family to improve their overall lives. That's not a bad thing. That's not a bug. That's a feature. That would be amazing. Every student, just by studying and working hard at school, can provide for their family. How many human interest stories have we seen of some disabled mom, grandpa, struggling every day, begging on the streets to take care of their grandchild because the parent died or whatever? We've all seen this. And then they say, if you want to send donations, blah to this phone number. It's so common, I could just say blah, blah to explain what I'm talking about, and everyone knows, right? Now, grandma, grandpa can be the adult at home. The kid is going to school and earning money, and then everyone is provided for. And possibly, in whatever poverty reason is responsible for the parent's death doesn't happen anymore. Because the kids go to school, they got money, they build up a little emergency fund for the entire family. Dad or mom gets injured at work, they can't work, they can't afford the hospital. Normally they can't afford the hospital, but they have a little nest egg from Little Mary Studies. And they go to the hospital and they get their hand sewn back on. They go through their couple months convalescence. They have time to stay home and heal, and they know that their children are not going to. I just saw a giant bug, and now I'm freaking out about the holes in the wall. Now, because the students can build a nest egg, right, a safety net for the entire family, if their parents get hurt or cannot work for any reason, the parents have a reasonable amount of time to job hunt or convalesce after some kind of injury. There's no undue stress, right? The student can continue going to school, earning money. The parent can stay home. And then when the parent is back on their feet, they go back to work. No more fights between dad and mom trying to make hard decisions about what to pay and what not to pay. Everything gets paid. Students may, in the future, make more money than their parents. How is this possible? Ooh, that's a unique feature of Mark Coin and cryptocurrency, Web3 technology in general, right? Because this is cryptocurrency, the price goes up and it goes down. Sometimes it's worth more, sometimes it's worth less. In our example, I set the price at $1. But the price will be $1 when 1,000 people use this cryptocurrency. When 1,000 people use Marks, I guess the price will be at $1. But there are 1.56 billion students. As Gang Foundation does its work of spreading Marks and putting Marks in different schools all over the world, more and more people will use Marks. They will become more and more valuable. That same $1 mark, 1 year from now, is $10. 5 years from then, it's $10,000. So everyone who has Marks early may, right, if you get Marks now when they're very low priced, only 30 cents or something like that, in 5 years, you get 1 million Marks now. 5 years from now, when it's worth $10,000, I don't even want to guess how much $10,000 times 1 million Marks is. Marks is not an investment per se. Actually, we don't even sell Marks. We don't sell them. Marks are not for sale. What is for sale are high Marks. That's the regulatory and the trading currency that you'll use, that different schools and teachers will use to get Marks for their students. Now, if students sell Marks on the open market, or teachers or whatever, schools want to sell Marks on the open market, that's up to them, because they will be worth a lot of money. I am sure of it. I'm sure that Marks will be worth a lot of money in the future, but that's just me. I'm just a regular teacher, so take that as you will. I can't give financial advice because I'm an English teacher. And if you watch this video from the beginning, you know I'm terrible at math. Anyway, that's the end. So just to recap, a poor student gets, 5,000 Marks at the end of the year, or they earn that much every year for their entire school. It's very easy for them to transfer for that profit of marks into their home life or their school life. Everybody wins, and the parents no longer have to spend any money. So it's very easy for them to save. And if there's an accident, there's savings. And it's very easy for everyone to get medical attention. That if the community wants to come together, it's very easy to pool that wealth and hire in high quality workers. Now, I want you to just think about that. I think next time I'll talk about teachers being rock stars, right? So $300,000 amongst one school can hire anybody. There's going to be big competition among teachers about who's the best, and they're going to start getting paid like they're the best. That's for today. I'm Dan Rogers from Gang Foundation, trying to spread the word about Mark coins. They are basically free. They're basically free. They don't cost any money. And if you are interested, if you're a teacher, a private teacher, or even a public teacher, and you're interested in using marks, Gang Foundation is a charitable foundation. So we do give marks, just marks for free. You use the marks, distribute them to your student, and as long as you accept them for your service of teaching, you should make a nice profit. You should. As long as you use them and then other people use them too, then they're going to become very profitable. That's it.